Hey, good evening from Indiana. I've been up here working at families. We had a funeral up here, and so I got to work on my brother-in-law's house and do some painting and some fixing up, and I'm glad to do it. That's the yard. That's a nice piece of trim I just finished. And so it's time to spend some time with you. And this morning when I woke up, it was the first thing I had was a little disappointment. And since the late 90s, Joy has had, plantar fasciitis, some foot problems. And then later on in 2010, she hurt her back. And it's just always been something for her, more interior. Me, I got stitches, I got cut, I got, all those kind of things. But, for her, it was more interior. And that's hard for a husband, and this morning she's sore and, we've got answers to prayers. We've gotten some breakthroughs. We've got some health breakthroughs, and if she hadn't gotten some issues, we wouldn't really have come to a place where we were understanding our health better and our body better and how to walk in better health. So, sometimes our challenges, the things that try to hurt us, do make us stronger. Now, a bear attack, no, that will kill you. That does not make stronger. What I want you to know is that I'm here right now in Indiana, and I was disappointed this morning. And I just said, God, I'm disappointed. As my wife, oh, what was that? Earthquake? Everything looks different. What did I do? Well, I had to fix phones for storage reasons. You know how that is, you get on a roll and all of a sudden that little square comes up and says, you have no more storage, and it stops you. Boy, I don't like that. That really hurts my feelings. So in the midst of not only dealing with that, but getting over the attitude of dealing with that, to get back to where we were, I don't even remember where I left off. All right, so I was talking about Joy and I, we have to deal with things, and we get caught up in just years of having to deal with things. And I was disappointed about that. So one thing that I do to get over that, and just getting on to more of whatever I want to go here, is when you have to deal with things to overcome, you have to break through. Now, we've had our breakthroughs, and we've had things that happened that caused us to even get stronger. If it hadn't been for the challenge, we wouldn't have gotten stronger and gotten more health conscious. And so you have to kind of things in comes with what you deal with in a bigger picture. Is pain going to take a day off? Nope. I often ask God, why does everything have to hurt? Why does everything have to hurt? It just seems like, could I go through a day without smashing my finger or getting it caught on something or, something simple? And it's like, no, pain does not take a day off. And then we find things that help Joy or help me, and we're like, that's it, yeah, we're great. But then something else comes along, or it doesn't last as long, or, there's more to do. Nope. Okay, I'm going to do this again. Nope. Okay. How about this? Let's fix this. Oh, the Lord really showed us something here. And our life improved. But did it get rid of the pain? Nope. No, it's still there. And so what do people do? What do most people do? Well, they give up. They put up with it. They begin to medicate it with aspirin or some other pain reliever that will eventually someday have a side effect. But it allows them to live and think in a way that they function good, they function correctly. Or they just give up, okay, this is the way it is, this is the way it's always going to be. And sometimes that's the hardest thing not to do, because it is very easy to just say, okay, this is the way it is, I got to put up with this. I got to take the aspirin or go to the doctor or do something. But the key that I find is not to say what now or what next or what else, because that's where I get into the disappointment in God. And that's where I was today. I got disappointed in God. And I shared it. I just said, God, I'm disappointed in you. And I just let that feeling out. And I thought to myself, God has to deal with people that have more serious issues than I do. As a matter of fact, I even said out loud, God, I know that right now, even though I'm disappointed, you've got many spouses sitting next to hospital beds throughout this nation and world that are angry at you. They're mad at you. They're disappointed at you as they sit next to their spouse and wonder why you're letting this happen to them, why you're having them go through this, why you did this, why, God, why? And so they're dealing with more than I'm dealing with. They're hurting more, it's the same feeling, but thank you, Lord, that I'm not there, that I'm not in a hospital room next to my spouse's bed. Thank you, Lord, that you have healed us. Thank you, Lord, that you have done so many things to help our lives be better and give us a lot of ideas and preventive maintenance to not end up even worse with our health by what you've done for us and by allowing some things in our lives, Lord. You have held us and held us up as an example to others of people that are breaking through and not giving up. And we're trying to do that all the time. And as I prayed like that, I began to instead of think of an overall picture, I began to just think of one day at a time and the breakthroughs that we've had. And I started to feel better, to take each day with an eye on the big picture while we deal with just today. Because God's looking at something greater than I'm looking at. Because when it comes to joy, I'm more concerned for her than myself, as we all are. We all have, family members that are going through things, and all we can do is pray sometimes. There really isn't an aspirin for some things. And and we wonder, well, is it the bed we're sleeping on, or is it some food that she ate, or why is she so sore today? And because of that, I was complaining, and but I'm trying to balance it with the big picture of what God's trying to do on how many things. So I prayed for people in hospitals. Began to not think about myself and what I'm, and being disappointed with God. And I began to pray for those people in the hospital and pray for families. And realizing that, yeah, I'm going through tribulation. Joy is going through tribulation, but it's not the great tribulation. It's a testing. It's a trying, it's a toughening, it's things that God allows in our lives so that we can become more than we are right now, which is where happiness is, where we gain true joy and true peace and true happiness is when we have overcome things. God said to me, where would you be right now if you hadn't faced what you faced? And I certainly wouldn't be here talking to you and helping you face what you face. And that's more of a big picture than anything else, because, I wrote this note. When God realized it was going to take his son to save us, did he complain? Did he say, okay, that's where I draw the line, not my son? Now, you and I as human beings, that's where we would draw the line. But we're just human beings, but not God. He would not draw the line there, because the big picture is his love. The big picture is his love for us. And that overcame any price that it would take to pay to have us with him. And so I decided to just keep my attitude, go for a walk, and get some coffee down at the nearby gas station. And on my way to that on my way to that gas station, that's when I heard the words, disappointment or power, attain or complain. And at the moment that thought came into my mind, I was thinking something very interesting. I was thinking about not being in fear and what it took to not be in fear. And sometimes you can be in fear before you know it, because you've already experienced that situation before. When you're at you're driving your car and you're near a train trestle crossing, and you hear the horn of the train. Your body's automatically on alert, making sure that you're safe. Let's see. Because we have to look at what the big picture is and where you would be. Because remember, in the Old Testament, David lost everything to some raiders. And when he got back to camp, everything was gone except the men. All the women were gone. The guys that he were with were the only ones left. And his stuff was gone. The women were gone. All of their booty that from previous things they had been doing were gone. And he could have gotten really upset with God and felt sorry for himself. But instead he said, okay, God, what do I do? He grabbed himself by his own bootstraps, lifted himself up and said, what do I do, God? I'm going to do something. And God said, pursue. And when God said pursue, he went after those people that took his stuff, and he got everything back, and no harm came to any of his family or any of his stuff. But he had to encourage himself in the Lord. He had to lift himself up. He had to make that decision. He had to overcome and not complain. He had to push complaining aside and go and pursue. And that caused him to become more of the king that he needed to be. And what about when the Hebrew children were in the desert going around the mountain? The God's big picture was not what they were going through, but cleansing out that which would not let them move on. They could not move to the next phase in their life with the attitude of the desert in their mind, with the attitude of Egypt in their mind. And what if God is trying to bring Joy and I something even greater, some more anointing, some more power, some more influence in this world, some more ability to change things and to help the covenant and the gospel go forth? But he's got to work with us first to handle it. He's got to change us in order to get us to bring change. And he's got to get into us what he has to get through us to you. And so we have to go through things as leaders in the gospel, as ministers who have said, okay, we want to be licensed ministers. We want to have a degree. We want to have the right to marry and bury and go into hospitals. And to have that, you have to go through things. You have to suffer things to gain that license, whether it's a car license, driver's license, doctor's license, a lawyer's license, whatever it is. You've got to go through things. Why wouldn't God require that of us, to go through things to get what's available, and it's attainable, but you've got to go through something to get it. And that's where we're like, oh, wait. I want everything to be given to me. You see that in the society right now. I could even tell you the story about the lazy lion cub. Have you ever heard the story about the lazy lion cub? Well, the lazy lion cub, he had teeth like all the other cubs and claws like all the other cubs, but he didn't want to grow and do what he was supposed to do. He kind of laid around, and the other lions would go out and hunt, which they're supposed to do, and cubs are supposed to stay behind protected, and which he did. But he would just eat the food that was provided for him by the other lions. But when it came time for him to go out and start to learn how to hunt, he told his lion mother and dad, well, I hurt my paw. I can't go today. Oh, I just don't feel good today. And they would understand, and they would bring back some meat for him and all of that. And as the other cubs learned and grew, he just kept having other problems and issues where he just didn't want to go. I'll stay here, and hold down the fort while you all go hunt and things like that. And the lazy lion cub never really learned how to hunt. He always had things provided for him. And of course, the mother lion was very, kind to him. Oh, I need to feed him. I need to take care of him. He's my cub. And the father lion is like, you can't keep treating him like that. You got to make him get out there, And so the lazy lion cub, as he got older, he began to get hungry. And the pride was moving along, and he says, I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to stay here. You'll, bring me something when you catch something, And once or twice that worked. Once or twice they were able to bring down something large enough for all the lions to eat, and they brought back something to the lazy lion cub, who had now grown into, a regular lion, but he still wasn't hunting. He was relying on everyone else. He was relying on everyone else's ability to do his job. And finally the day came when he was really hungry, and there was the other lions were out hunting, and they had to go further and further and further away to finally find something to eat. And by the time they got that far, and they were so hungry, they ate it all. And there was nothing for the lazy lion to eat. So he thought he would go out and find something for himself, but he used up all his energy trying to catch something he didn't know how to catch. He couldn't find anything to eat. He didn't take the time to learn. He didn't take the time to be taught, and all his little problems and issues that wouldn't let him, that he may use as an excuse. Now he was just starving and getting weaker and weaker. And of course now the pride of lions, which had the food and had moved so far away, couldn't come back for him, and he was left alone. And it wasn't long after that he was surrounded by his enemies. He had no strength to fight, and he was dispatched quickly. You don't want to be like that. What you go through gets you ready for what's coming. And all right, so David lost everything. You got to remember that God is way above our situation. He's way above our situation. What God needs from us is much more than we even understand. And what God did for us by even allowing us to exist in his creation is something grander. I mean, think of it. He had the ability to bring life, to us, the creation. So he's always thinking bigger. I mean, I think of, things, look at the things that have happened, here in the United States. And I just named 3 of them. I thought, how did things change after the Titanic? What if the Titanic had crossed the ocean and not sunk? The updates on watertight integrity, the ship design changes that were made because of that disaster were paramount to the future of shipping. And then there's Pearl Harbor, and of course, and the main thing that brought on is, Titanic, they were prideful, they were lazy. Then there's Pearl Harbor. We were getting prideful, we were getting lazy. We were thinking that we had the world by the tail. And then Pearl Harbor happened. And then there's 9/11. 9/11 happened. What are the changes that have come because of that? I still pray every time it's 9/11 in the morning or 9/11 at night, and I happen to look at the clock and it says 9/11. I pray for the people that were injured and hurt and killed. I pray for the people that are caretakers for those that are still alive from that. I pray for the government, that the connections between the branches of the government are still strong, and there's nobody prideful and arrogant trying to hold back information so they can be a hero. But everything is still being shared. The sharing of information throughout our government was not like that before 9/11. And so everyone's working together more after 9/11 than ever before. And even just recently with the COV, how that has made people be more conscious of their health. It brought the whole world down to a tiny little ball of a problem that that's their problem in that country. Not anymore. If something happens in another country, it's coming here. And we have to be more careful like that. So there's a lot of good changes, a lot of good things that come out of whatever is bad. And so in the midst of all of this, as I'm walking, and I'm asking God, for more strength and ability to overcome fear, to not be afraid. That's when he said to me, power. And when he said power and disappointment don't mix. And attaining things and complaining about things don't mix. So I'm on my way to the gas station saying, okay, so I've got to stop complaining. I've got to stop complaining, about everything around me, So on the way there, I'm telling you, there's something about Indiana and grass. They have the most beautiful lawns here, and grass, just gorgeous. And I was just enjoying that, how beautifully cut and, absolutely flawless these lawns are with and even freshly sod ones or older ones, just beautiful. And I'm enjoying that. And I go in, and it's like, my first complaint was, it's going to take 3 cups of coffee to get 1 cup of coffee out of this. And then I go over to the creamer thing, and I hit the button for creamer, and there's no creamer. And I know the creamers with flavors all have sugar, and I do not like sugar in my coffee. And so that was another one. And then finding something to drink that's not going to have some chemical in it was another one. And these were all tests to see, am I going to complain? Am I going to complain? And I just stayed calm, and I poured my coffee, and I got my half and half, and I got an extra drink out of the refrigerator that I'm familiar with that has all good ingredients. And I didn't try to think about the money about it or how much I'm paying for it. Just get your coffee, get your drink, and notice how you've had a life of complaining. Just all the time you're thinking of complaining. Your thinking is complaining. Even if you're not saying out loud, your thinking is complaining. And so I was conquering that, and I got to the register. And even then, I had a little bit of an attitude saying to the guy at the register, oh, I hope this is south of, $5. It only came to $3.62. And I said, thank you. That was something I needed. Less than $4. Thank you very much. But then, so I handed him $5.62, and he handed me $1 back. Unfortunately, because of his mind of thinking, and I'm telling you, they do it on purpose even though they don't know it. And they even could do it in their life and not even know they're doing it, but they're always trying to take advantage of people. There's somebody always looking to take advantage, and to have the thoughts about not complaining in my mind. I just stood there for a second with my $1 in my hand, and I said, I'm supposed to have 2? And he said, oh, and hands me the other $1. Because he was probably had it in his mind that he would be giving me $1.48 change. And he just didn't realize I gave him $5.62. Or he was hoping that would work. He's just not, that maybe I can take $1 from this guy. But because I had the mentality of not complaining, because I had the mentality of okay, I'm attaining, I am not complaining, I am not going to worry about it. And so I went back to just, dealing with how beautiful the grass was, and I went outside and had the coffee and walked back to the house and realized that all this was triggered by not wanting to be in fear, by wanting to understand more about fear and the power to overcome fear. Now, uh, don't think that complaining is not something that is a sin. A lot of complaining is not a sin, because remember, God complained. You know, as a matter of fact, it's important to be a friend of God. You know why it's important to be a friend of God? Moses was a friend of God. And God came to Moses and complained. He regretted. He says, these people are terrible. I'm just going to wipe them out and start over with you. But you're my friend, Moses, and I just want to tell you something. I'm coming to you with the idea that I'm just going to wipe everybody out and start over. But God knew he needed to be merciful. God knew that he didn't want to do that, but he needed Moses to stand between the people and him and say, no, take me instead. Wipe me out, Lord, but forgive and love your people. And so don't think that God doesn't complain. It's like, okay, complaining is all right. You just have to do it in the right way. And being God's friend is very important, because being a friend to God, he'll come to you and say, listen, I'm about to have a fit here. And you'll be able to stand in the gap and say, no, don't do that. Be kind, God. Be merciful. Because, God, you gave your son. God, you didn't say, oh, really? My son? This is going to take my son? I don't want to do my son. No, not my son. Oh, God wasn't like that. He said, whatever it takes. And so I say, whatever it takes. Now, this is how I'm going to narrow this down. You know how it always kind of narrows down? Well, when I was doing the study, that's when I noticed how this began to narrow down for me today. And I'm trying to get my book to sit up here so I can talk to you. And because God doesn't deserve my complaints. He has already done so much for me. He's already allowed me to even be here and exist, who didn't exist before. And he said, I have no power as I'm disappointed. And I have no way of attaining as long as I am complaining. And this is how I got my answer, was through my prayer. I want to have less fear. I do not want to be afraid, ever. It doesn't matter if it's a charging elephant or somebody, a demon possessed a man from the tombs. I do not want to be afraid. And God said, took me back to where fear comes from. Well, I asked, of course, wanting to be free from fear. And then I remembered the Lord's Prayer. It says, lead us not into temptation. And that part, lead us not into temptation, means God does not take us in that direction. God does not have temptation to give us. He does not have a desire to lead it to us, to bring it to us. It's not because there's nothing in him. He has nothing to tempt us with. There's nothing in him that's tempting for us to sin. Because for it to be tempting, it would have to be sin. And if it was sin, it would have to be in him. And it's not in him, so therefore, he can't have anything in him to tempt us with. So we are led, and then it goes on to say, we are led astray by our own desire and our sin in towards the destruction. But he delivers us out of it. So what that had to do was, he lead us not into temptation. God doesn't have it. So that means when fear comes at me, okay, that means whatever has it is full of fear. I mean, demons are full of fear. Demons are very fearful because they know where they're going. They know what's going to happen. They're desperately struggling to try to figure out some way to keep it from happening because they are in fear. And so it's very easy for them to put fear on us because it's in them. So what you don't have, you can't give. And so I can't put fear into people because I'm not going to have fear in me to give them. And I'm not going to receive the fear, but I'm going to say, oh, if you're trying to put fear on me, you are full of fear. And I can just turn that right back. So what you don't have, you can't give. So I'm free from complaining. I'm going to be strong and free from complaining. Sorry, I'm trying to stop a sneeze. Free from complaining. If I am free from complaining, and complaining is not in me, then I will be able to attain more from God. I can complain or I can attain. But it goes beyond that. It's not just, I'm not complaining about this, to, it doesn't dawn on me to complain. I have no desire to complain. I am working and living moment to moment with the desire, you walked in here for coffee, get your coffee. And whatever it costs, that's what it costs. You drink whatever it costs, because you're not a complainer. You're an attainer. And same with being disappointed. As long as I'm disappointed, I cannot move in the power that I want to move in. Because if I'm disappointed, then disappointment is in me. If disappointment is in me, then that's taking up room that power needs to be in. And my big picture, is focusing on Jesus, not my spouse. Focusing on what he is doing. What is his part in this? Obviously Jesus does not want my wife to be in pain. My Jesus wants her to be in perfect health. And we have to work that out to accomplish that. Whether it's here or, a spouse that's in a hospital. And one of the reasons I'm in this, in Indiana, was because of a funeral of someone that had been through so much and then finally and had enough. And a physical thing happened. Could have been something left over from what happened, several years ago in an automobile accident. I don't know quite yet why it happened and why we had, why this passing happened. But we do know that this person, before they passed away, had already been through so much. And there was just this feeling of, the pain of the loss, but the gain for now that they're happy. Now they're pain-free. And my big picture is that I can't enjoy things as long as I'm complaining. Because when I went outside with my coffee, at first, until I got back into the attitude of, okay, the guy may have just tried to take $1 from me. And if he does that all day long, he just, whatever. Just getting over that attitude, I began to enjoy how beautiful the grass was, and then I took the lid off the coffee and began to enjoy my coffee, and I was able to enjoy it. See, I couldn't really enjoy the coffee till I stopped complaining about it. And maybe that's the same thing God was trying to teach me, was I couldn't really enjoy what God's doing for me when I'm complaining about what he's not doing for me. I couldn't see or take part in the coffee's benefit as long as I was complaining about everything else that was going along with it. And so on the big picture side, just showing God that, okay, I'm getting over this. I'm getting over my attitude. And I'm enjoying how beautiful it is, a beautiful morning, your creation. And then all of a sudden the coffee tasted better. And the morning got brighter. And I think the complaining was holding back all of that. So why not equate that to the power of God in your life? Why not say, okay, as I'm missing the power of God in my life, is it because I've got complaining in me? Am I missing what he's got for me because I'm complaining of what he hasn't got for me? So how do I get complaining out of me? Is by recognizing it and not letting it come out my mouth. By saying, okay, I'm having a little issue here, and praying about it. Because I have the power to attain. But if I'm complaining, I don't get it. And even if I do get it, I don't appreciate it and see it. You know, it's like when you can have all the pie you want, pretty soon pie is really not, that exciting anymore. You'd like to have some real food. But when you can have only real food, then you want some pie. So how does this equate to fear? How did God narrow this down for me? Well, if I want more power over fear, if I want to be unaffected by fear, then I have to have no value towards the things that try to bring fear. Nothing that has fear, and realize that anything that's trying to put fear on me has fear in it. And he was showing me that by showing me anytime I'm complaining, it's because complaining is in me. And there's no room for God with complaining. So I still have to refuse fear. I have to refuse fear. And when fear tries to come, it surprises me that I'm not afraid. That's where I want to be. I can stand in the middle of whatever God has for me and not be afraid, because if I get afraid, then God can't use me. I think that's one reason I joined the military, was because the training that I received in the military causes me not to be afraid. All the fire drills, all the flooding drills, everything that we went through made us able to function when that kind of a scary thing happens. So God has these kind of drills for us, where he allows a little bit of fear or a little bit of pain or a little bit of discomfort, and it's a drill. How are you going to handle this for real? Well, let's do a little test here and see how you do with the test. Well, I didn't do so good, but it was a good test, and you learn not to deal, with it. And then, of course, when you overcome it, then when it comes on someone in your family or it tries to come at you again, you're like, oh no, I've been here before. I'm not going there. Because when I'm not disappointed, I have power. When I'm not complaining, I'm attaining. Now, I'm going to go to something here too, right at the end. Two things. In 2 Samuel 21, Goliath's 4 sons show up. And of course, David slew Goliath. So 20 years after, between 18 and 20 years after David slew Goliath, he actually became king. So he had a character time of building. He went through a lot of things, and then he became king. We're no different. We have to go through things to become in charge. We have to go through things to become trained. So David did. Now then, after he became king, he did a lot of great things, warrior things, took a lot of land, really grew his kingdom. Then there's probably another 10 years before all of a sudden this happens. The children of Goliath show up in 2 Samuel 20:21. I think it's 20:21. Could be 2 Samuel 21:20. I could have turned it around. And these 4 sons, and it says these were the sons of the giant. And why? Well, when David slew Goliath, it says they pursued the Philistines back to Gath and stopped. And of course, back then, the children didn't go to war. And so the sons of Goliath were in Gath, little children. And so in these past 30 years, they grew up to be men, and were like, I'm going to get that guy. I'm going to get that guy that killed my daddy. So you do have things from your past, but it's just coming at you in revenge, things like that. You've got to be ready. Just because you became king doesn't mean you don't have to deal with things. So these sons of the giants showed up, and the people of Israel took care of it. They didn't let them do anything that Goliath did, because they'd already learned their lesson. And so must you. Once you've learned your lesson, don't let that thing come back at you. I have a recurring thing in my own life. I'm no different. I have things come back for me from years ago, and I have to go, oh, no. I even had to contact someone that prayed for me, and I got a healing for. I got a healing, and I had to contact them and say, listen, the prayer that we prayed and I got healed for years ago is trying to come back on me right now. And they immediately, responded and said, we're praying for that. We're in agreement with you on that. That shall not come back. And so it is, we all need to deal with that. Because, so the reason this is Mark 2:21. Now, Mark 2:21, which is what I'm going to wind up on, is where we're going and where it came together for me today. So, 2:21. It says, no man has sewn a piece of new cloth into an old garment, else the new piece, when the garment is wet or washed, will shrink differently and pull away and tear the garment, and it'll be worse than before. And no man puts a patch of new skin on an old wineskin, else when the new wine is put in, the skin burst and all the wine be lost. Let me read it in the King James. No man puts new wine into an old bottle, else the new wine doth burst the bottle, and the new wine is spilled, and the bottles will be marred. But the new wine must be put into new bottles. So you cannot patch an old bottle, an old wineskin, or an old piece of cloth. And you cannot do this and you have to have something brand new. So, where does this come together? Well, first of all, if you're brand new, you don't have fear of bursting. You're going to hold whatever God has for you. Second of all, with being a new wineskin, and not just trying to patch up your life, you are wholly new. And whatever comes, you are going to be able to deal with it. You're going to be able to hold it because you are new wine. You're new skin. But now, look at it from the big picture. God's not just thinking about the wineskin. He's not just thinking about me. He's thinking about the blood of his son. He's thinking about the sacrifice that he made for you to be born again. And he's just not going to put it in something that is untested, untried. He's not going to put it in something that's going to burst and lose everything he's given. It's about being a new wineskin. It's about saying, Jesus, make me brand new. Come into my heart. Live inside of me. Change me from the inside out. I don't want to be old. I don't want to be even patched. I want to be brand new. I want to be able to hold everything that you have for me. Jesus, I love you. I need you. Thank you for forgiving my sins. Now make me brand new. And fill me with your new wine. Fill me with your new joy. Fill me with everything that you have for me. I need you to do this, Lord. This is the only way I can contain everything and be respectful of everything that you have done for me. So, being a new wine skin is not easy. But we can't complain. Obviously we can, but we shouldn't complain. We need to take everything that comes along. After the Titanic, the changes that were made saved thousands of people from ships that would have sunk. After Pearl Harbor, after World War II, the entire plan of evil and evil men was set back 100 years. After something happens, then we have to realize God's big picture. God's plan is way beyond ours. what he says. And so when we go through stuff, when we have our patience tried, when we want to complain, when we want to feel like, okay, this is it, God, I've had all I can take, we've got to remember, oh, is it going to take my son to save these people? Is it going to take my son? Really? God did not say that. God did not say that. Whatever we have to go through, God has a plan, and he works it all out for good, Romans 8:28. He works it out for those who are called according to their specific purpose in life. You've got a purpose. God's got a plan. You know, tires have to be pumped up. Tires have to be pumped up and have pressure in them in order to work properly. They overheat and they have issues when they go flat. There's not enough air. God's pumping you up. He's filling you full. He's got a plan, a place for you. And that's his desire, is for whether you're the tires or the engine or a piston or whatever part of a car, you have to go through, and you need to be placed where you are to do what you have been called to do. And God's going to work out the whole thing. I know it's so tough. I know it's so tough. But yet, it was tough yesterday, and you made it. The rent's been paid last month. It'll be paid this month. God's going to do it. God's going to do it. And, of course, it's easier for me, 25, 30 years into this than maybe for you. But I've made it. And I want more. And I want more, so I got to have less of what the world is, less complaining, because I want more attaining, and not complaining about where I'm at, but attaining where I'm going to go, and not whining about where it is, instead of, and not being disappointed in God. Not being disappointed is going to allow me to have more power. And I understand that now. And God used fear as an example, And see, God doesn't have complaining in him. So when I'm complaining, I'm not getting anything from him. And all right, so anyway, that's what I wanted to say. So remember, you can be disappointed, or you can have power. You can attain, or you can complain. It's up to you. But don't think of it as a lifetime. Think of it as just today. And I love you very much. And Jesus loves you more. Hope you enjoyed this tonight. Good night. And Jesus loves you more than I do.